Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
The big stories tonight. Typhoon Tino gains strength as it moves closer to eastern Visayas and Caraga. Pag-asa is not ruling out the possibility of this weather disturbance reaching super typhoon category.
And it's not just the Public Works Department and the ICI putting forth corruption complaints. The NBI 4-1 is filing cases against some elected officials next week over the flood control fiasco.
And Manila gets allies together in defending the West Philippine Sea as it signs a visiting forces deal with Canada, while creating a separate sea task force with the United States.
Signal number 4 is now up over parts of eastern Samar, Leyte, and Bohol as Typhoon Tino inches closer to land. Pag-asa has repeatedly warned officials and residents in these provinces of possible storm surges and landslides. And to give us an update on the ground, we have with us Mon Gualvez of News 5. Mon, nasaan ka ba eksakto ngayon at kamusta ang panahon dyan?
Sa mga oras na ito, dito kami ngayon sa Borongan City, Eastern Samar, kung saan nakararanas ng pabugso-bugsong lakas ng ulan na sinasabayan pa ng hampas ng hangin. Actually, itong mga weather condition na ito ay halos buong araw din naming naranasan sa malaking bahagi yan ng mga summer provinces. Nagsimula kami bumiyahe mula sa may Katarman, Northern Samar, at halos buong araw talagang walang tigil ang pag-ulan. Patikim itong bagyong Tino. Ang pinangangambahan ngayon ng mga residente ay ang posibleng pagtama nito ngayong bandang gabi, hating gabi hanggang madaling araw. Kaya naman marami na rin ang mga nagsilikas na mga residente dito pa lamang sa Borongan City, Eastern Samar. Ang isang building nga dito sa may DRRMO building nila, yung isang buong floor, talagang puno na ng mga evacuees na karamihan ay galing sa mga low-lying areas, particularly yung mga nakatira malapit sa dagat at sa mga ilog na nangangamba sakaling umapaw o magkaroon nga ng mga storm surges na posibleng umabot daw ng mahigit 3 metro yung taas. So bukod dyan, talaga umabot na rin sa halos 9,000 individual o katumbas ng halos 3,000 pamilya naman ang nasa record ngayon ng Provincial Office na mga nagsilikas na or after magpatupad ng forced evacuation dulot ng bagyong Tino.
Mon, ano ang sa tingin mo ang mas malakas, hangin ba o ulan?
Malakas yung ulan, no, dito sa area. Pero ang nakakatakot kasi, yung hangin, pabigla-bigla. So kapag sinasabayan niya pa yung ulan, mas malakas yung tama ng ulan, di hamak, no? So ito yung mas destructive in a way sa mga properties, at yun yung kinatatakutan ng mga residente, kaya some of them opted to at least evacuate as early as now and just follow the officials after they instructed yung forced evacuation. So wala na talaga mga nakatira halos or na nagstay dito sa mga areas that I said kanina na mga nasa malapit sa dagat at sa ilog, Ses.
Mon, kapansin-pansin din na ang track ni Tino ay halos kapareho ng Yolanda noong taong 2013.
Yes, actually yan yung pinangangambahan din ng mga residente rito. Balot pa rin sila ng takot o trauma dulot nga ng bagyong Yolanda. Ang kwento nga ng ilang mga residente na kausap namin nag-evacuate, dati raw nung bagyong Yolanda, lumikas lamang sila sa mga bahay na mas matataas lamang. Bagay na mas nagpatakot, kumbaga kakaba-kaba sila noon. Kaya ngayon, sumunod na sila at talagang lumikas sa mas ligtas ng mga lugar na iniutos ng pinakalokal na pamahalaan. So, yung trauma na iniwan ng bagyong Yolanda kung saan may mga nasawi rin dito sa Eastern Samar, talagang ayaw na nilang maulit. Kaya nga yung ganitong mga pagkakataon na bago pa man tumama yung bagyo, marami na rin mga nagsilikas. Ang pinangangambahan din nila, mangyari yung mga storm surge, landslide at pagbaha na madalas nararanasan, lalo na yung mga malalapit sa ilog dito sa probinsya, Ses.
May mga nadaanan ka bang binabahana? Dahil ang pagkakatanda ko, nakausap ko kasi last week yung mayor ng Borongan at sinabi niyang yung ilog ay kumbaga nagawa na ng proyekto na para maibsan yung baha doon sa mga nakatira sa tabing ilog dyan sa Borongan. May napansin ka ba?
Oo, probably sa Borongan is baka maging better na kung ganun man, Ses. No? Pero in other parts of Eastern Samar, malaking problema pa rin yung mga ilog na madaling umapaw. Kaya nga, dahil nga sa pagiging silted na nito, at the same time, yung contributaries dito kasi galing din sa Northern Samar. So kapag hindi umuulan sa Eastern Samar pero malakas ang buhos naman sa Northern, madali ding umangat o tumaas yung tubig. Pero so far, sa aming pagbiyahe kanina, wala pa naman kami na monitor ng mga pagbaha. At sa record naman ng provincial government, meron daw ilang areas na nagkaroon ng pagbaha kaninang tanghali pero mabilis din doon nag-subside. So yun yung inaabatan nila ngayon kung sakasakaling magtuloy-tuloy itong pag-ulan habang papalapit pa itong bagyong Tino sa probinsya. Yes.
Sa obserbasyon mo ba, Mon, sapat na ba ang ginagawang preparasyon ng mga otoridad at ng mga residente dahil sabi mo nga, talagang sariwa pa sa alaala nila at na-trauma nga sila dito sa Yolanda. So, mas bang sineseryoso ang evacuation ngayon?
Tama yung word, mas sineseryoso na nila ngayon, Ses, yung paglikas. Kasi nga, nung mga nakaraang mga panahon, aminado rin naman sila kapag nagpapalikas, hindi nila ito kumbaga sinusunod eventually dahil nga hindi pa nila masyadong ramdam, hindi pa naman nila nakikita yung pag-ulan at lakas ng hangin. Pero ngayon, talagang matapos ka mag-utos at even the local government itself, kasi nga, ang order ngayon hindi lang preemptive, kundi forced evacuation, especially in areas dun sa mga mas maapektuhan sakaling tumama yung lakas ng bagyo. So, in terms of preparation, at least to evacuate all the residents is one thing. It's a good point in a way at nakapreposition na rin daw ang mga food packs na kakailanganin. Pero siyempre, alam naman natin, yung mga sitwasyon sa evacuation center, medyo hindi lang din talaga convenient or komportable ang mga kapatid natin dito sa lugar. Pero ang sabi naman ng lokal na pamahalaan, ito'y panandalian lamang habang o hanggang nananalasa itong bagyo. Pero oras naman doon na humupa na, talagang papayagan naman din sila agad na magsibalik sa kanilang mga tirahan.
So kayo, Mon, ay on the road pa ba? Saan kayo magpapalipas ng gabi?
Currently, nasa Borongan pa kami ngayon. We are trying to get into D1 pero mukhang alanganin dahil nga talagang doon tatama ang bagyo at mukhang hindi kami ina-advisean na ng authorities na tumuloy sa biyahe para nga sa safety din. No? So mukhang we will be staying dito sa Borongan kung saan nararamdaman pa rin naman yung the police o kahit pa paano hagupit pa rin ng bagyong Tino, Ses.
Okay, Mon? Ingat kayo dyan at ng iyong team. Maraming salamat. That was News 5's Mon Gualvez reporting to us from Eastern Samar.
Elsewhere, Typhoon Tino is also dumping lots of rain. And now let's get the situation in Surigao del Norte. Joining us tonight live from Surigao City is News 5 correspondent Bril Montalvo. Bril, kamusta na ba ang sitwasyon dyan ngayon?
Pauline, alam mo, napakalakas pa rin ng ulan at hangin dito nga sa Surigao City na epekto ni Bagyong Tino. Alam mo, Pauline, sa lakas ng hangin ay may nabuwal na malaking puno dito sa Capitol Ground ng Surigao City at nadaganan ito nga dalawang sasakyan ng provincial LGU. At kanina din na Pauline, nag-ikot tayo dito sa Surigao City para tignan ang sitwasyon dito. At sa pag-ikot nga natin ay napansin natin na may mga residente tayong nakausap na nag-evacuate sila dito nga sa evacuation center ng provincial government ng Surigao del Norte kasi nga sa takot na baka maulit yung naranasan nila noong 2021 sa kasagsagan ng hagupit ni Bagyong Odette. So kanina palang tanghali ay nagsilikas na yung mga residente sa malapit sa may coastal area nga dito sa Surigao City dito sa evacuation center. At may mga port din dito, dalawang port dito, ito nga Port of Surigao na kansilado na ang mga biyahe dito papunta sa Cebu City, Leyte, sa Dinagat Island at maging sa Siargao Island dahil nga nitong banta ni Bagyong Tino. At swerte namang wala nga na-stranded doon sa Port of Surigao dito kasi nga naabisuhan ng maaga itong mga pasahero na kansilado nga simula pa kahapon itong biyahe sa naturang port. At dito naman sa isang port ang itong isa pang port dito nga sa Surigao City ay patungo itong Visayas. Stranded itong mga truck driver at maging itong mga pasahero ng bus dahil kansilado din ang biyahe dito papunta sa Visayas. So mag-iisang araw na sila simula pa kagabi na stranded. Ito nga mga pasahero ng bus at mga cargo truck nga dito sa Lapa.
Okay, Bril, I'm not sure if we still have you on the line, pero kamustahin na rin namin yung sitwasyon sa tabing dagat at aling-aling mga lugar ba ang makaklasify ngayon na hazard areas dyan sa Surigao?
May apat nga na barangay dito sa Surigao City na apektado nga nitong Bagyong Tino nga karamihan dito sa evacuation ng provincial capital kasi na baka doon sila maabutan ng bagyo.
Seems we lost the connection with Bril Montalvo over there. So it seems there could be communication lines are probably down in Surigao.
And usually pag cloudy kasi, yung signal natin talagang nawawala.
Permanent talaga yan.
Subukan nating balik si Bril maya-maya.
But you could see, ang lakas ng ulan sa likod niya.
Oo.
Kita dun sa street lamp. Diba?
Or at least may power.
At
may
least may
kuryente.
power. At mukhang maayos pa naman siya. Okay, for now, as we know, Typhoon Tino has slightly intensified and is poised to make landfall over Leyte anytime now. Let's get the latest from News 5's weather frontliner Alvin Pura. Alvin, ano yung inaasahan natin pagka-landfall ng Typhoon Tino, and talk us through kasi mukhang more than one landfall ang posible.
Yes, Sean, yung ating bagyo nga ay malapit na mag-landfall dito sa mga areas ng Dinagat Islands o maaaring dito rin po sa may area ng Leyte. Usually, kapag tumatawid sa gitna ng ating bansa ang mga bagyo is multiple landfalls talaga ang ating inaasahan dahil mga isla po yung mga area na yan, ang malaking bahagi ng Visayas, aabot pa yan dito sa area ng Palawan. Ngayong gabi nga, yan po ay pinakamalapit na dito sa Dinagat Islands at sa itaas na bahagi ng Siargao, dyan po sa may Surigao del Norte at sa ibabang bahagi ng Giwan, Eastern Samar. Ito ay last na namataan ng pag-asa sa line around 170 kilometers east ng Giwan Eastern Samar, pero nandito na po yan sa pagitan, patungo po dito sa area ng Leyte. May pagkakataon pong possible po yung sumabit dito sa Dinagat Islands at pwede rin pong tumawid na dito sa may area ng Southern Leyte. After po niyan, ngayong magdamag, babaybayin niyan itong area ng Bohol at Cebu area. Maaaring dumaan dito sa itaas na bahagi ng Cebu City. Tatawid po ng Negros at Western Visayas. Bukas ng umaga, nandiyan na po yan sa mga isla, dyan po sa may area ng Panay. At maaaring nandito na sa Sulusi. At bukas nga ng hapon hanggang gabi, ito po ay tatawid naman dito sa northern portion ng Palawan. At sa darating na Thursday, hanggang Wednesday, hanggang Thursday, yan po ay nandito na sa may West Philippine Sea. At Thursday, yan po ay makalabas na ng ating Philippine Area of Responsibility. At kasabay po ng pagtawid yan, dahil nasa typhoon category yan, yung ating pinakamalakas na bugso ng hangin na malapit sa kanyang gitna ay posible pong magdala ng mga damaging at destructive winds, particularly doon po sa mga areas na malapit sa kanyang eye wall at sa kanyang gitna. Yung po ang mga areas nga nitong central portion ng Visayas, well, unang-una po dyan ng Eastern Visayas, Central Visayas at Western section ng Visayas, maging dito sa northern portion ng Palawan. Again, yung ating panglabas na kaulapan naman at outer wind field ng bagyong Tino ay ramdam din po sa malaking bahagi po ng Visayas, Mimaropa, nag-extend pa yan sa Bicol region, maging dito sa northern portion ng Mindanao. Yan po yung mga areas na nakakaramdam ng malalakas na bugso ng hangin at malalakas na pag-ulan na malayo sa mismong bagyo. Again, maliban po dyan, meron din tayong tinatawag na indirect effect. Ito pong bagyong si Tino, kasabay ng pagtawid niyan, meron din po yung inflow ng hangin ng ating amihan at yung ating banggaan sa ating easterlies, kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag na shear line na nagpapaulan po sa mga areas na malayo dito sa bagyong Tino. Kasama po dyan ang Metro Manila, maging dito sa malaking bahagi ng Central Zone. Yes, Sean?
Yun nga, Alvin, gusto ko tanong sa'yo, yung shear line kasi ang nagpapaulan dito sa Metro Manila, madaling araw pa lang kagabi, ang lakas na ng ulan. Ang shear line ba ay may kinalaman sa bagyo? Just for the, information of everyone.
Yung ating shear line ay indirect effect dito pong bagyo. Kapag meron tayong mga bagyo, i-relate natin yan sa habagat. Kapag meron tayong habagat, di ba, usually, nasa taas yung ating bagyo, tapos nagpapaulan po yan sa ibabang bahagi ng ating bansa. Ngayon naman, baliktad. Since nasa ibaba yung ating bagyo, nagpapaulan naman itong shear line o yung ating amihan sa itaas na bahagi nito. So meron tayong wind field o meron tayong wind flow ng hangin mula sa ating amihan papunta dun sa ating bagyo at meron din po yung inflow ng hangin mula sa ating easterly. So yung banggaan na po yan po yung ating tinatawag na shear line. So yung convergence ng ating hangin which is nagdadala po, which is conducive sa pag-create ng mga kaulapan at mga posibleng pag-ulan. So affected po niyan, ito pong mga areas, nandito yung ating bagyo sa Eastern Visayas, pero itong malaking bahagi ng Bicol region, Calabarzon, including Metro Manila, some parts ng Central Luzon, particularly ang Aurora, Bulacan, Nueva Ecija, maging dito sa area ng Isabela, Cagayan, and ito rin pong areas ng Quirino, meron tayong mga possible na kalat-kalat na pag-ulan dyan. Although hindi kasing lakas ng mga pag-ulan dito sa areas na malapit sa gitna ng bagyo, still possible pa rin po yung magpamaha. So mag-ingat din po tayo sa mga possible effects nitong ating shear line at magpapatuloy pa ito. Habang tumatawid nga itong bagyong Tino, dito po sa gitnang bahagi ng ating bansa, continuously hihila po yan ng ating amihan at yung ating shear line as magpapatuloy po ang epekto in the next 2 days pa, including dito sa Metro Manila.
Okay, so more rains in the next 2 days. Pero is that the reason, Alvin, kung bakit parang bumaba yung track ng bagyo, yung kinakwento mong mga hangin na galing sa itaas?
Yes, Sean, kapag ganitong panahon ng amihan, usually talaga nagla-landfall o tumatama yung ating mga bagyo. Ang natural motion ng mga bagyo natin dahil sa Coriolis force, yung pag-ikot ng ating mundo is recurve pataas unless merong ibang weather system na nakaka-apekto dito. This time of the year, meron nga tayong northeast monsoon at yung ating high pressure area dito sa itaas na bahagi ng bansa natin is yun po ang tumutulak. Kaya sumusubsob yung ating mga bagyo at most likely nga, gaya ng nabanggit natin itong mga nakaraang araw pa, sa pagbabantay natin dito sa bagyong Tino ay inaasahan talaga natin ito mag-landfall dahil nga panahon po ng amihan ngayon at yun nga mataas ang tsansa na nagla-landfall at kadalasan nga tumatama sa lupa yung ating mga bagyo at kaya nga mas mababa pa po ito para sa mga bagyo na nagla-landfall tuwing buwan ng June, July sa panahon ng habagat nasa Northern Luzon tumatama at Central Luzon kapag panahon po ng amihan, November, December at kahit minsan may mga bagyo tayo sa buwan ng January nagla-landfall po yan o tumatama talaga dito po sa areas ng Visayas at Mindanao. Sean?
Of course, bare months na nga ngayon, no? At tulad ng sinabi mo, usually sa Vismin ito tumatama. And people can't help but compare to Yolanda. Tulad nga nung pag-uusap ni Ces at ni Mon kanina, ang daming mga residente dyan, they can't help but compare yung trauma nila sa Yolanda. How would you compare in terms of rainfall amount at yung mapinsalang mga hangin? May similarities ba?
Alright, Sean, yung ating mga bagyo is para yung fingerprint. Usually, wala naman talagang magkatulad. Meron tayong mga similar na bagyo, pero yung exactly the same na bagyo, wala tayong ganyang bagyo. Pero Dito sa Bagyong Tino compared sa Yolanda, ang medyo similar sa kanila is yung track o yung pinupuntahan ng bagyo. With respect sa lakas nito, yung ating Bagyong Yolanda ay umabot sa Super Typhoon category. Ito namang Bagyong Tino, bumababa yung chance nitong maging isang Super Typhoon. Yung ating category ng Super Typhoon is from 120 kilometers per hour up to 185 kilometers per hour. Ito pong si Tino ay nasa 130 kilometers per hour. Nasa ibabang range pa po yan ng ating typhoon category. So malayo pa yung lalakbayin yan para makarating sa 185 kilometers per hour. As of now, worst case, possible umabot sa middle part ng ating typhoon category or at most near super typhoon. Pero sa ngayon, medyo mababa na yung possibility niyang umabot sa super typhoon category. So given that, mas mahina po ito sa Bagyong Yolanda, pero still, malakas na bagyo pa rin ito, particularly doon sa mga areas na tatamaan ng gitna nito. Destructive pa din po yung ating hangin yan. At compared naman sa structure, usually nga kapag malakas yung ating mga bagyo, kapag umaabot yan sa super typhoon level, malakas yung tinatawag nating centrifugal force. So, nasisiksik sa gitna niyan yung kanyang pinakamalalakas na hangin at malalakas na pag-ulan. 6 hours bago tumama yung Yolanda, wala pa pong ulan at wala pa rin pong hangin. Pero nung tumama siya, sobrang lakas na hangin at sobrang lakas na pag-ulan at malawakang storm surge ang naidulot nito. Compared dito sa Bagyong si Tino, kung mapapansin nyo, is malawak yung kaulapan niyan. Senyalis yan na mas mahina yung Bagyong Tino compared sa Bagyong Yolanda at mas malawak yung mga pag-ulan niya. So, given that, mas nadadagdagan naman ang dangers ng mga pag-ulan na associated sa Bagyong Tino compared dun sa kanyang mga malalakas na bugso ng hangin. Pero again, delikado pa rin po yung mga dadaanan ng gitna at yung mga areas na malapit sa gitna ng Bagyong Tino. Yes, Sean?
Okay, at bali-balita rin, Alvin, na may 2 bagyo pa raw na binabantayan ng Pag-asa na paparating in the coming weeks. Yung ba yung nakikita nating buntot dyan sa may likuran mo? What can you tell us about that?
Yes, yun. Meron tayong binabantayang low pressure area. Panibago po yan. Nandito sa labas ng ating Philippine Area of Responsibility. Ito po ay huling namata ng Pag-asa sa more than 2,300 kilometers pa east ng northeastern Mindanao. So narito po yung grupo ng kaulapan na yan. So ito po ay babantayan naman natin in the next few days hanggang sa weekend dahil sa ngayon, possible po yung lumakas at maging bagyo at posible ring makapasok sa loob ng ating Philippine Area of Responsibility ngayong weekend. If ever, yan po ay bibigyan ng local name na Yuan. Pero ngayon, is erratic pa ang nature niyan. May chance din po yung maglandfall or tumama dito sa northern portion ng Luzon or pwede rin po yung mag-recurve pataas. Kaya in the next few days, babantayan natin ang possible na direction at lakas nito. Pero for now, focus muna tayo dito kay Bagyong Tino dahil ito po ang nagdadala ng mga paminsalang hangin at malalakas sa pag-ulan sa malaking bahagi ng ating bansa. Yes, Sean?
Maraming salamat. That was Alvin Pura, News 5's weather frontliner. Thanks, Alvin.
Right now, at this point, let's go back to News 5's Bril Montalvo. He is reporting to us live from Surigao City. Bril, bago ka naputol kanina, you were talking about yung mga stranded na pasahero, ano? Pati yung mga cargo nila sa Surigao del Norte. Go ahead.
Yes, tama ka nga dyan, Polino. Medyo bumagsak yung signal nga dito sa Surigao City kasi sa mga oras na ito, napakalakas pa talaga ng ulan at napakalakas ng hangin. At tama ka nga dyan, Polino, nag-ikot nga tayo kanina doon sa mga port dito sa Surigao City at isa nga dito ang port of Lipata kung saan stranded yung mga cargo trucks na nagde-deliver ng mga goods kagaya ng mga saging at mangga patungo nga doon sa Visayas at maging mga pampasahero nga bus dito stranded din. Ang mga passengers, ilang mga passengers, isang araw na nga sila simula pa kagabi nang dumating sila na na hindi kansilado na ito nga mga biyahe starting yesterday Pulina. So perwisyo talaga itong bagyo at ito nga pagka-stranded ng mga trucker, itong mga driver sa kanilang cargo truck na Apulin. So wala pang abiso ang Coast Guard kung kailan ba ibabalik ang itong nga biyahe ng mga ports dito sa Surigao City. Pulin.
Perwisyo nga talaga, Bril, ano? Pero para sa kaligtasan din naman yan ng mga kapatid natin. Earlier, Bril, nakita namin nung sa live report mo, may ilaw naman doon sa street lamp sa iyong likuran. So does that mean okay naman yung power supply sa Surigao City? At kamusta naman yung communication lines?
Yes, Polino, okay naman na dito yung linya ng kuryente, maging mga supply ng tubig. At mode of communication dito, may mga signal naman dito. Pero paminsan-minsan na nawawala, pero at least may signal pa rin na despite na itong nararanasang malakas na ulan at malakas na hangin bunsod nito nga bagyong Tino dito nga sa Surigao City, Pauline.
So tama ba, Bril, nasa ilalim pa rin ng signal number 3 ang Surigao? At kung ikukumpara mo yung ulan, pati yung hangin, ngayong gabi kumpara sa kaninang umaga, kaninang hapon, mas lumakas pa ba yung ulan?
Tama ka nga dyan, Pulina. Ngayon na dito sa Surigao City at the rest sa Surigao del Norte ay nasa ilalim nga ng signal number 3. At compare kaninang madaling or kaninang umaga kasi nag-start itong ulan at malakas na hangin kaninang alas 8 ng umaga. So kanina medyo hindi masyadong kalakasan. Compare ngayon na grabe talaga yung mga puno, nagsigalawan na, yung mga dahon sa puno. Kanina medyo hindi pa natin mapapansin na gumagalaw itong mga puno, mga dahon. Pero ngayon grabe talaga, may nagbagsakan na nga itong manating puno dito sa ground Capitol at nadaganan nga itong dalawang sasakyan. So, unti-unting lumalagkas habang lumalalim ang gabi ay lumalagkas din itong ulan at hangin dito sa Surigao City ngayong gabi po.
Bril, nabanggit mo nga kanina, yung mga residente dyan, natuto na doon kay Super Typhoon Odette back in 2021. Pero kamusta naman yung preparasyon ng local government? Mas maayos na ba ngayon considering na-experience na nga nila yon yung Typhoon Odette?
Yes, tuloy pa rin nga, nag-ikot nga yung mga kapulisan at maging ang local government unit dito sa Surigao City sa mga coastal area dito nga sa Surigao City. At isa-isa nilang in-inspect yung mga affected residents ng bagyo, particular doon sa mga coastal area. At inabisuhan sila, nag-force evacuate na sila kanilang tanghali. At dinala sa iba't ibang evacuation center dito sa Surigao City. So ayon nga sa LGU dito, nasa 4 na barangay sa coastal area ang nandito ngayon sa provincial capital evacuation. At maging hanggang sa ngayon ay meron pang mga nagsidatingan na mga evacuees dito sa evacuation center.
So Bril, ano yung mga pangunahing kailangan ng mga kapatid natin dyan ngayon sa Surigao?
Tama ka nga dyan, Kulin. Isa yan sa mga dinadaing ngayon ng mga evacuees ito na evacuation center. Ito nga mga pagkain, mainom na tubig, at yung mga food snacks. Yan yung pangunahing pangangailangan nila ngayon. Kasi nga walang mabibilan dito kasi halos ng mga tindahan dito sarado. Ngayon ng gabi, nag-ikot yung kasamahan natin dito para bumili ng pagkain. Pahirapan yung pagbili ng mga pagkain dito kasi sirado na ang itong mga tindahan dito. At nagdeklara din ang LGU dito at naging ang provincial government na walang pasok dito sa Surigao del Norte sa mga government offices at naging sa eskwelahan ay suspendido ngayong araw po din.
Okay, maraming salamat para sa update na yan at mag-ingat ka. That was News 5 Mindanao correspondent Bril Montalvo reporting to us from Surigao City.
And now moving on, here are other stories making headlines this first Monday of November, kicked off by another round of oil price increases. Motorists should brace for a big-time oil price hike effective tomorrow, Tuesday, November 4. The price of diesel will climb by 2 pesos and 70 centavos, gasoline by 170, and kerosene by 2.10 per liter. This is the 5th straight week that gasoline prices are on an upward trajectory, and the second for diesel and kerosene. The Energy Department says higher demand caused a jump in oil prices due to easing U.S.-China tensions and Western sanctions on Russia. Meantime, the number of functionally illiterate Filipinos has nearly doubled to 24.8 million in the past 3 decades. That's according to the Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM-2. The commission warned that the Department of Education's involvement in over 260 interagency bodies has diverted its focus from basic education. EDCOM-2 urged the government to streamline DepEd's functions as teachers continue to shoulder non-teaching tasks that affect learning quality.
In other developments, a San Juan court junked Senator Jinggoy Estrada's petition for a temporary restraining order against dismissed DPWH Assistant Engineer Bryce Hernandez. Estrada is seeking court action to prevent Hernandez from hurling accusations against him in the flood control mess. But Estrada's office clarified that only the TRO was denied and not the petition for a preliminary injunction. The court is set to hear that petition on November 12th.
And Senator J.V. Ejercito has filed a bill named after influencer and content creator Eman Atienza, who died last week in Los Angeles, California. The measure aims to address issues of cyberbullying, fake news, and online defamation. Eman, the daughter of TV personality Kim Atienza and fitness enthusiast, businesswoman, and conservationist Felicia Hong, had been battling depression. She was subjected to online bashing before her demise. The Eman Atienza bill will explicitly penalize actions like cyber libel, online hate speech, harassment, cyber stalking, and non-consensual sharing of private information. We're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, the National Bureau of Investigation is filing 3 to 4 cases next week over the flood control scandal, and elected officials are included in the charge sheet. The details of that story and more when we return. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back to the big story. President Bongbong Marcos brushed aside questions raised before the Supreme Court on the constitutionality of the Independent Commission on Infrastructure, or ICI. Marcos said the administration is confident about the commission's legal standing, citing consultations with top legal experts before its creation. Last week, a teacher filed a petition questioning the creation and the mandate of the ICI. The petitioner said the ICI's functions may be redundant with other government agencies and that it should not be investigating other offices that are also under the executive branch. But Marcos said these legal challenges are expected.
The ICI is an entirely new entity that didn't exist before, that we are only now completely defining. So there will be questions as to its legality, its constitutionality, and somebody, I'm sure, I know that somebody will raise. I don't know about the others, but I was sure somebody would have an idea that maybe it's unconstitutional or that it's unlawful. We'll just have to answer those allegations, and we'll see how the Supreme Court decides. I'm very confident that we are on safe legal grounds. That now it's time to let the ICI do its work, and let the Ombudsman do his work, and let the DOJ do their work.
Meanwhile, President Marcos does not mind the planned anti-corruption protests on November 30, Bonifacio Day. Marcos again acknowledged the public outrage on the corruption and inefficiency in infrastructure projects. He, however, warned against agitators who might use the demonstrations to incite violence. Marcos said intelligence agencies already have information on who these agitators are and have been monitoring their movements.
Those funds are supposed to go to people, to feed people, to make their lives better, and that all disappeared because they're buying airplanes and buying big mansions. Of course they'll be angry. The only concern I have when we have demonstrations for whatever reason is that there are agitators who will go and try to cause trouble. What demonstrator goes to a demonstration with Molotov cocktails? Those are the people that we are worried about. And those are the people that we are watching out for. Galin na ninyo sa isip ninyo yan. Manggugulo kayo, wala namang mangyayari, may masasaktan lang.
And in one of the single biggest reforms in the Public Works Department, Secretary Vince Dizon vowed to overhaul procurement and pricing practices in the agency. Leading the initiative, Dizon announced today that they will be slashing construction material costs and will be cracking down on overpricing and corruption in government projects. This move follows President Bongbong Marcos' directive for the DPWH to cut material costs by up to 50%. The agency will now closely monitor and standardize prices of essential construction materials. This is after uncovering massive discrepancies between market rates and DPWH project costs. In one cited case, asphalt prices in Region 4B reportedly hit over 23,000 pesos per metric ton, which the DPWH says can be reduced to less than 6,000 pesos. These reforms could save up to 60 billion pesos in the 2026 national budget, enough to build 1,600 kilometers of concrete roads and 1,000 kilometers of asphalt overlay nationwide.
Kasi ngayon, pagka nababa na natin ito, medyo kahit papano, sabi nga ni Pangulo, mami-minimize natin ang opportunities for corruption. Bakit? Kasi dati dahil overpriced, madaling mangurakot.
The DPWH is also reviewing potential legal liabilities for overpricing, with some cases already filed, including that against resigned Ako Bicol representative or Ako Bicol party list representative Zaldico. Secretary Dizon said he is very confident that around 60 individuals linked to anomalies in flood control projects will face charges.
Makikita nyo na yung mga unang mga tao na makukulong na, no? At sabi ko nga, tingin ko marami-rami ang magpapasko sa kulungan in the next few weeks and few months.
The DPWH also signed an agreement with the Philippine Space Agency to adopt satellite imagery in verifying the progress of infrastructure projects nationwide. Under this agreement, PhilSA will provide satellite capture data to help DPWH verify, assess, and track ongoing and completed public works nationwide. That is with greater precision and reduced reliance on manual field checks aimed at curbing ghost projects.
Meanwhile, NBI officer in charge Lito Magno revealed that they are set to file 3 to 4 new cases next week in connection with the flood control scandal. He confirmed that elected officials are included in the charge sheet for this batch. On our sister program, Storycon, Magno said the recommended charges could include public corruption, malversation, and bribery. For this filing, necessary documents have already been completed. Recall that the Justice Department earlier sued DPWH engineers and several contractors over the flood control fiasco.
Pinail po natin yung mga public corruption, malversation, bribery. Karamihan po ng nasampahan natin ay itong mga...
Ito yung initial list that the DOJ provided or yung ICI kasi may dalawang listahan eh.
Sa amin po, ang naisampahan namin ng mga kaso ay yung mga taga-DPWH.
Mga engineers. Yung initial list of DPWH engineers.
Yes.
Okay. May kasama din contractors dun sa listahan na yun, correct?
Kasama po yung ibang ginamit na contractor at yung pong mga part ng
Contractors.
Bids and Awards Committee.
Okay.
Karamihan po ito ay mga ghost projects lamang.
Yes, sir.
Nasa prosecution level pa lang.
Prosecutorial level pa lang.
They are evaluating the cases that we filed. Wala pa po sa court.
Meantime, the National Bureau of Investigation is still clueless on the whereabouts of surprise witness Orly Guteza. Prior to this, the Armed Forces has denied reports that Guteza, a retired member of the Philippine Marine Corps, is under their protection.
Sa ngayon ho ay wala ho talaga kami pang alam kung nasaan siya, no? At naging partisipasyon lang ho ng ating NBI ay nung inatasan ito ng ating Manila Trial Court para magsagawa ng isang examination.
Forensic.
Doon po sa sinasabing affidavit kung saan dininay ang signature ng abogadang nagnotaryo.
President Marcos hopes the military cooperation between the U.S. and the Philippines will de-escalate tensions in the West Philippine Sea. Both countries unveiled Task Force Philippines on the sidelines of the ASEAN Defense Ministers meeting in Kuala Lumpur last Friday. U.S. Department of War Secretary Pete Hegseth said the Mutual Defense Treaty is marked as the foundation of this critical partnership. Marcos believes the task force will not lead to new conflicts in the area.
I hope it will lower the tensions in West Philippine Sea. It will certainly not heighten them because it's not something new. Wala namang bagong ginagawa. Nagkaka-heightening lang of tension kapag may sumubok ng bago. Dati hindi ginagawa, bigla na lang gagawin. Yun, magkaka-tension.
For more clarity, Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro said yesterday the task force will not only focus on Chinese aggression, other matters will be managed by the group too, such as disaster response.
It is nothing new but an operating agreement between General Bronner and Admiral Paparo raised up to our level. And upon the shall we say, with the permission of both President Trump and President Marcos. This task force will put more regularity into an immediate and quick response to the natural calamities that we are facing.
Meantime, President Marcos is back in the Philippines after spending 3 days in South Korea for the 32nd Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation or APEC Summit. Marcos described his APEC participation as fruitful. It enabled him to advance Philippine interests such as MSMEs, infrastructure development, stronger supply chains, and digital literacy. Amid tensions in the West Philippine Sea, the president was seen shaking hands with his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping.
Ang hirap lapitan. Ayoko namang mamilit. Baka suntukin pa ako ng security guard niya. Pinilit ko makapunta sa kanya. And I said, yeah, congratulations on your assumption of the chair for the following APEC. And I hope to do good work together with you. That's it. Mabilisan lang eh. This is APEC. It's an economic meeting. You don't really talk about such issues. In ASEAN, pwede pa. These political issues. That's
Meantime, the Philippines and Canada have signed a status of visiting forces agreement. This agreement aims to strengthen defense cooperation between the two countries. Department of National Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro Jr. and Canadian Minister of National Defense David McGuinty signed the agreement, making the Philippines the first visiting forces agreement partner of Canada in the Indo-Pacific region. On the other hand, Canada is the fifth country with which the Philippines has forged a defense pact. The Philippines has a long-standing mutual defense treaty and VFA with the United States. It has also status of visiting forces agreements with Australia and New Zealand and the recent reciprocal access agreement with Japan. A SOFVA or SOVFA basically establishes the legal framework for visiting forces during joint defense activities, training, and exercises. Teodoro and McGuinty emphasized their commitment to strengthening defense cooperation, with Canada expressing support for Filipino sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Canada and the Philippines are natural allies. And to remember that Canada has been and remains resolute in support of Filipino sovereignty and territorial integrity.
From economic development to cybersecurity to humanitarian assistance and disaster response, disaster risk reduction and resilience, Canada and the Philippines share a lot of common interests.
Now back to President Bongbong Marcos and his latest foreign trip to South Korea. He went home with billions of pesos in investment pledges. More from this report.
President Bongbong Marcos described his participation in the 32nd APEC Summit in Gyeongju, South Korea as very productive. The summit focused on the use of artificial intelligence and climate change mitigation amid economic challenges and regional tensions.
I'm going home. All of us are going back to Manila with a lot of ideas to think about and some work to do to develop those ideas.
On the sidelines of APEC, the president met with major South Korean firms, including tech giant Samsung, which plans to invest over 50 billion pesos to expand its manufacturing operations in Calamba, Laguna. The project is expected to generate more than 3,000 jobs.
Buti na lang, meron na tayong batas na create more. Because within the new Create More Act, there is a threshold where we say that if there is an investment of over 50 billion pesos in the country, then they are qualified to be extended incentives and tax exemptions. So they committed to that.
Samsung will also implement technology transfer and workforce training programs in the Philippines, partnering with select universities for research and skills development. A supplemental agreement was also signed between the DTI, PEZA, and Samsung Electromechanics Philippines Corporation.
Yung mga trabaho na binibigay ng mga companies na to, medyo on the higher level. So that means maganda ang pasweldo. So napaka-importante sa ating Pangulo.
President Marcos likewise held talks with shipbuilding leader Hanwha Ocean for the modernization of the Philippine Navy, an energy firm DL Group, which aims to partner with Meralco for a small modular nuclear reactor project in the Philippines. The president also met with Chilean President Gabriel Boric to finalize the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement before the year ends. It will be the Philippines' first free trade agreement in Latin America. Before returning to Manila, President Marcos visited the UN Memorial Cemetery in Busan to honor Filipino soldiers who fought in the Korean War.
All right. right, and for our big picture tonight, Alex Ayala makes her story again. She becomes the first Filipina to break into the top 50 of the World Tennis Association or WTA rankings, catapulting by her 40 to 26 win-loss record. It's a significant jump for the tennis sensation after ending 2024 as world number 158. Ayala recently made it into the round of 16 at the Hong Kong Open, where she showed tenacity and confidence. But she fell in a 3-set showdown against Canada's Victoria Mboko. Okay.
So proud
Wow.
of Alex.
Proud of Alex, always making
She's
history.
People of the Year.
Oh,
Don't you think?
she should. She should be.
And you
She
know what
should
I
be.
love? What I love about her, she's so well-spoken. Parang she's really a great representation. Parang pag nag-explain siya,
Yeah.
nakaka-proud.
She
Oo.
always makes sure to represent the Philippines. She speaks Tagalog,
Yeah.
right? When she does her speech after her win. So,
Oo nga, but in
Yeah,
other
while we're saddled
inspiring.
with all these, negative
flood control, tapos
negative
bumabaha na naman.
stories, oo, bagsak ang
market.
PSE, the lowest in I don't know how long,
You
many,
know, like,
many years.
sige, little anecdote na lang. So, my brother used to be a stockbroker like many, many moons ago. Tapos, suot niya yung pantulog niya na, PSE 5,000. And we were like,
That's when we're
sabi namin, bago ba yan or luma? He was like, guys, 2012 pa to.
and now we're back to
We're
the
touching
We're
those
now going
levels.
back there. So, 2012, guys.
Oh, wow.
Kasi naalala ko, meron siyang 6,000, 7,000, 8,000. So, may
Yeah,
9,000
yeah.
siya na shirt.
Yeah, pero did we ever hit 9? Parang hindi yata.
Very, very close.
Close, no?
That
Close.
was the time of
Yeah.
the first Trump and President Duterte.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to look at it on a positive note, maybe it's time to buy since all
Actually, tama
When
yun.
there's
Stocks
blood
are
on the
at a bargain.
streets, yeah, it might be an opportunity, di
They
ba?
call it a fire sale.
Yeah.
Oo.
Yeah.
Bagsak presyo.
Bagsak presyo, pero baka may ibababa pa eh. Yun lang.
Yun lang. Kaya dapat, paunti-unti daw yung
Oo.
bili mo, di ba?
Oo.
Para ma-hedge, gano'n.
Yeah.
Pero hindi naman tayo stockbroker, so consult your professionals.
Yeah. Don't take our word for it. No.
Mga ano lang namin, personal strategy.
Yeah. All right, and that will do it for us here on The Big Story this first Monday of November. Thank you so much for watching.
We are back here tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. We'll be seeing you then.
And of course, we'd like to remind our kapatid in the Visayas and Mindanao to really heed the warnings ng mga authorities. Kasi although thankfully, it's not going to go to super typhoon category, mag-ingat po kayong lahat dyan. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a good night.
But we still have coming up next lots of sports play-by-play with Andre Felix and Riza Diaz tonight, guys.
Yeah, we heard that you were talking about Alex Ayala. We were
Yeah.
also talking, kami ni Riza sa dressing room kanina, we were asking na parang she keeps on improving her rankings. Bakit ba? And then sabi ko we're talking, and even si Kalar EP, may mga tournaments kasi sali siya ng sali. So the more matches you join, the more matches that you have, mas tataas yung rankings mo. Tapos remember na Miami Open, she went really far. So pag lumayo ko pa ng lumayo, umabot ka hanggang finals, ang dami mong matches, tataas kasi nagpapanalo
Pero wait,
ka.
Riza,
Oh.
may caveat dyan, di ba?
Oh.
Siyempre, sasali ka ng maraming tournament, pero kailangan medyo manalo ka din, right? Or else,
Well, it all plays a part.
Okay.
So, merong points when you participate in itself, just to be in the tournament in itself. There's
correct.
also points when you win. So, imagine if she could have gone farther in those tournaments on her, what she could have achieved.
Yes.
Again, this ranked 50th in the world is already the highest in her career so
Yes.
far. Highest for ever a Filipino.
Oh.
And remember, she's only 22 years old.
Yun nga yung pinag-usapan namin, Sean. Ano yun, sali ka lang ng sali ng tournament para
nga eh.
tumaas ka
Hindi
ng-
naman.
Kasi hindi nga. Kasi
hindi
nga
lang sapat
nagpapanalo
yung sali
siya.
ka lang ng sali.
Yes, kasi there are other tournaments that lumayo nga siya. Like even yung sa
The Miami Open.
Miami Open. So, nakatulong yun. Doon tumalon talaga yung kanyang rankings.
O, parang nilaktawan yun nun, parang from 170, parang
Yes.
ganun, di ba?
Tumaas.
Naging parang double digit.
158.
Parang
Oh.
100.
Yes.
Right? Wasn't it not,
People.
not long ago we were talking about her breaking into the 100, the
100,
top 100. Ngayon, she's at the top 50. So, there's so much to be achieved in the next year for Alex Ayala. Pero bago yan, syempre ang focus muna is the Southeast Asian Games.
Malapit na pala.
Yes.
1 month na lang.
Yes.
Tama ba?
Pati nakasama.
Pero ano bang dapat gawin ng isang atleta para maging isang Alex Eala in any sport, ha?
No,
Anong
I think the
kinakailangan?
secret of Alex
Yeah.
is really the support of her parents also. That was one of the biggest factors because her father, Mike Ayala, and also her mother, they're so supportive. They always travel with her. I believe si Sir Mike really fixes Alex's schedule. They supported her studying in Spain in Rafael Nadal Academy.
Ang laking sacrifice nun, no? For a parent. Like, batang-bata pa lang.
Yeah.
That's true.
You pull her out.
Investment and commitment din talaga,
But I think
starting from a
discipline.
very young age.
Yes.
For Alex, it's discipline.
How many hours of practice a
Ay,
day?
grabe yan. Pati, says, we have to factor in. Remember that movie they made about the Williams sisters to avoid burnout? Because lalo na sa tennis, they start as young as 10, 11, even below 10. Di ba, mga 13 years old, 14, nag-join na yan sa junior tournament. So talagang yung burnout, yun din kailangan. Kaya nga tama si Pauline, yung malaking nagawa ni Riza and ni Mike kay Alex because yung support and aminin na natin, medyo may kaya sila. Kasi mahal
They
din
were
yung-
able to
Actually,
afford the training.
Mahal yung tennis,
Gusto ko sabihin parang sana, no, ang dami nating na-save. Like, example, to binaba ni Vince Dizon, di ba, yung presyo ng mga prices ng raw materials for construction. Sabi niya,
Unbelievable. That's the first thing you should check, di ba?
di ba?
Ano
Parang
yung
yung
binibili mo?
canvas, di ba? Buti pa siya di ba?
Unbelievable.
And he was saying, we can build this much road, but
At
you know
saka-
that money, it could help an athlete.
Sa dami ng binibili ng gobyerno sa dami ng semento, dapat yung presyo bagsak. Di ba kasi
Economies of scale. Suki.
It's ridiculous na after all this while, ngayon lang nila na-realize
Pati
yun.
50%. Almost 50%.
Or the money could go to like training the next Alex Ayala or the next like
Yes.
Eman Bacosa or I don't know, Kaloyulos.
Bago namin kunin, totally gusto ko lang balikan yung, remember si Heidelin Diaz, she won the gold, di ba? First ever sa Olympics. Remember, pinakita niya, nag-viral yun, pinakita niya yung kanyang training na, kaya ngayon, grabe binabalik ni Heidi, di ba? Kasi gusto niya yung ating government, tumulong sa mga atletang Pinoy, lalo na sa grassroots level. Kasi di ba yung kanilang weight, yung as in bakal-bakal.
Correct.
Ano na, ang tawag doon, kalakalawang. Kalakalawang na.
Tingnan mo naman si Heidi, hindi sila may kayang pamilya, pero nagawa